My activism pretty much stems from my desire for my children not to endure the mental anguish and pressures, mental abuse from what this organization seems to provide their flock, the Watchtower organization. My wife, she was born into it, and she just briefly was this fellowship for, I would say, a year. I don't remember how much time it was, but she was born into it. Like I said, her whole family is into the Watchtower organization for the most part, and all her social networking and friends and so forth, and cousins and family and extended family revolves around the Watchtower organization. So when she got this fellowship, she felt the full brunt of the shunning from everyone. She went from being popular or, really outgoing with her group and family to being by herself. That is one thing I don't want my children to ever experience. Along with other mental abuse that this organization seems to provide their people, their rank and file, through the use of shunning and other peer pressuring techniques. In the beginning, I didn't know the full extent of the control tactics of the Watchtower organization to what it is now, and I attribute that to all the XJW videos that are out there, that they seem to give their experience from within. I mean, from the source. They're on the other end of the wrath of the Watchtower organization, and they seem to provide a bit more details, the underlying details of what's going on with that organization. But as far as my wife, I cannot really persuade her to leave the organization or anything like that. I don't think I could even bring it up, not at this juncture in our lives, because first of all, she, like I said, she's bred into it. She was born into it. The defense mechanism against my dislike of the organization would be that I am brain damaged or possessed by Satan, and she is going to enclose that wall against me and keep me outside. So I realize I can't come strong, and that is not my nature anyway. I'm not the type to lay down the law or bring down the hammer. On some occasions, yes. On other things, not concerning my wife, but everyday life. But in this case, I cannot go that approach. I cannot use that approach. I have to play it smart. Choose my battles, as they would say. But I cannot convince her of how corrupt this organization is from the inside out. She would have to find that information out by herself. Slowly but surely, I would introduce little tidbits here and there and just ask, questions. And later on, other videos, future videos, I'll get into that. And this is a work in progress, so if anything, these videos are pretty much an update of what I'm going through. But the main focus, is the kids, my children. Like I said, I cannot convince my wife, so she may not even be able to snap out of it until, she's old or whatever. Or maybe she could. I don't know. I have hope. But my children, they are a different story. They are still impressionable from both sides. The parents' side, the mother's side, and my influence. In the beginning, I did not want any children because I knew enough back then about the blood issue, and that's a big concern with me. And for the first 7 or 8 years of our marriage, we did not have children. In the beginning, it was because we were not really set up for children. as far as having our roots, laid down and having a stable place and career. I wanted to work out my career. But within 3 years, that all worked together, but I personally still did not want any children, just for the simple fact of the blood doctrine. I knew enough from a few, I would say, conventions and assemblies and a little bit of there, and some debate with my wife saying, why do you block this? Science has proven and surpassed what the early, Christians in antiquity, back in, year zero, when Christ was walking around, that we surpassed their knowledge of what, the blood issue is. But I'm not here to debate that, but that is sort of my take on it, on the blood issue. It was a dietary law for those days that, you drink blood or whatever, consume blood, you're going to get sick from the pathogens that are inside that blood. Today we have screening and all sorts of, modern technology to catch that. So back then, I did not want any children whatsoever, just so I wouldn't have to face the probability of my children not being born fully healthy, or they'll have an accident, early on, being kids, breaking bones or cutting themselves or whatever that may require a blood transfusion or something to that effect. I did not want to deal with that, because there would be a fight, between my wife and I, as far as, getting the kids, their proper medical attention. So I wanted to avoid that issue altogether by not having children at all. So that went on for a good 7 years of being childless. Being that long without children and being together for that long as well, fully convinced me that, yes, I would like to be with my wife for the rest of my life. And she's my life partner. And at the time, I did some soul searching, and it was like, how can I deny my wife motherhood? Just because I was afraid that, the blood issue will destroy us as far as a relationship. If it ever gets to that point, I'm still not out of the woods as far as my children. But it was a fight willing to have, I guess, when it happens, and I'll just deal with it when that happens. So after 7 years, we finally had our first child in our marriage. And perfect. Can't be any happier. I won't say how many children I have, but I have 2 plus, let's say, just to throw out a number. And they're all healthy. They're all vivacious and bouncing around everywhere, driving me nuts, but that goes without saying. But luckily, nothing has happened as far as medical issues or anything like that. They're all healthy. So I dodged that bullet as far as an impending fight if they were to require some medical attention, needing blood. But, that is pretty extreme for a couple, especially for one person that is not of their religion, myself, not believing in her belief of this blood issue thing, that it was strong enough for me to think that I do not want children with this woman, because it's going to be, the end of our relationship or whatever. And next thing you know, we'll have kids without their dad and a divorce and a whole lot of mess after that. And like I said, I'm still not out of the woods yet. Pre-teens, and anything can happen from here on to when they're, adults. Hopefully, I could persuade them while growing up that this religion is not for them, and they can make their own decision, their own medical decisions of how to, be healthy. So now we do have children, and they're growing up, and they're slowly being indoctrinated. Behind my back, of course. I don't go to the meetings, but Mom, she takes them to the meetings. But I do plant in seeds here and there of, think for yourself. I mean, do you really think, I would ask them questions like, do you really think lions are gonna not eat you if they're hungry? You know, things like that. But anyway, a few of my kids are girls. So they're right off the bat, written in stone by the men of the Watchtower organization, they're second-class citizens. And I refuse them to ever think that, or to accept that, their fate as second-class citizens just because they're women, or they're going to be women. And my girls, they're strong-willed, and I don't think they're going to sit still for that either. So I got that going for me, or for them. So it's all about them. That's one thing I'm going to point out, that, you're not going to be able to, lead anything, or, no leadership positions in the church, and so forth. And there's a host of all kinds of other emotional baggage that these kids will face if I don't intervene now in their mental being, or at least prepare them for the letdown that the organization will eventually have on them. Because I see it in my wife. She was mentally abused by her mother. For some extent, the father too, but he was pretty much aloof in raising the family. He pretty much just works, comes home, drinks a scotch, and zones out for the rest of the day. Really didn't have any input in family life, except toting the line and making appearances, keeping up with the image. And he's like that today as well. The grandparents, my in-laws, they're a piece of work. And like I said, I see the emotional abuse that my wife has gone through all her life. It seems like every phase or milestone in a person's life, talking about my wife's life, it was nothing but disappointment. One letdown after the other on some aspects. And I can't say I saved her, no. If anything, mentally, I think I'm not contributing to her mental well-being as well, being someone that is worldly or not of her faith, because she knows in her mind I'm not going to be around if this whole Armageddon thing ever happens, or if I just die of natural causes. Both of us, we're not going to be together in the afterlife. She has a lot of emotional baggage from being in this religion, and I see it every day. I see the effects of the mental and some physical abuse from the mom. And sometimes I have to catch her so she won't transpose that anguish over to the children. She doesn't. She loves her kids. She is one super mom. I like to say that we learn from our parents' mistakes not to repeat what they have done, so we don't repeat that to our kids, and hopefully they'll come out okay. But yeah, my focus is on my children, and like I said, I cannot focus on my wife as far as waking her up from this organization or cult or whatever you want to call it. But I do have a chance with my children, and I could have quite a bit of influence with them because they love their dad. I tell you straight up. But I have a lot against me as far as resources. Like I said, the whole family, their family is here, and the grandparents, and they go to the meetings, and the friends and the girlfriends and whatnot. So, and it's just me as a worldly person. I'm their only worldly contact other than school and their schoolmates and friends outside the Watchtower organization. And that's another story in itself for another video. They get a big healthy dose of worldly life with me, and I make no beans about it. They ask me why I don't go to the meeting, and I tell them straight up, because I do not believe in Jehovah or the Watchtower organization. Plain and simple. No stories about petting pandas or Jesus reigning since 1914 and, the usual stuff. This is everyday living straight talk that I give them, even at an early age that they're in, because they do listen to everything. And at least my kids, they do mold it over in their heads, and they think for themselves. They critically think, and I can see that in their eyes when they kind of go quiet for a second or two, and I can see those little gears going in their heads saying, okay, well, I don't think they know yet that, I'm going to be, slung against a rock, or I have a meteor with my name on it, but I will bring it up. But I have asked them that, what do you think? I asked them, do you think your dad is a good person? And they're like, yeah, I'm a good person and everything, and I'm a good dad. And so, and then my next question will be, so what do you think Jehovah wants to tell me if I'm a good person? That's a heavy thing to say, but I kind of, dumbed it down a little bit for them. It wasn't that direct, but sooner or later I will be a bit more direct, and we'll see how it goes there. But the big focus, like I said, is on my children. I have a chance with them. At least my youngest, I know she's not going to be in the organization, because she's a fiery, feisty little girl. And my other children, they're beginning to think a little bit. They're beginning to believe it a little bit, but it's all fantasy right now. It's all in that, petting pandas and riding lions phase right now. So I do have some more time, but it's quick. You won't believe how quick that all this, indoctrination takes place. And I notice with other JWs, ex-JW videos, that there's a handful, less than a handful out there that are in mixed religious households. One spouse being worldly and the other being JW. But the JW did not take an active part in deprogramming their children, or pretty much left it to the religious or devout person responsibility of bringing up the children in some sort of religion. And I am guilty of that myself. I am totally guilty of that, because I think we made a deal, a wife and I, we talked about this and saying, listen, I'm agnostic. I don't believe in any of that. You believe in JWs? Okay, go ahead and, do what you do, and they could decide for themselves what they want to pursue. And I shouldn't have done that. Not in the beginning. I was ignorant in the beginning, but now that I'm sort of awake, I'm awake. It's funny. I'm more awake than I am before, if that makes sense. In a way, worldly people are somewhat asleep as well, because they think JW is Christianity, but really it isn't. It's just the method of indoctrinating and controlling people in their organization. That's my take. Yes, us worldly people get duped as well, even though we're either atheists or agnostic. We're still duped into defending this religion. Like, I'm into the United States Constitution. I believe in it. And people's religion, freedom of religion, I hold it dear to me. Even this particular religion in the past. But I got duped into thinking that this religion is worth defending just because of, spiritual freedom. But in reality, this high control group is the first one to strip your human rights away from their members once they, go through the process of becoming a JW. And that is one thing I don't want my children to ever experience. Yeah, that's where I'm coming from here, and this rabbit hole gets really deep, and I'm going on plus 10 minutes on this video already, and there is so much more to this, and having children in this situation, a worldly and a JW member, just complicates things tenfold, exponentially. The kids are the ones that are going to suffer. They're not going to come out of this unscathed. They're going to have to deal with this. And, of course, I'll be the bedrock, and support that they need, and a person to talk to without the guise of JW indoctrination behind it. My wife, well, she has a JW brain, and that's another brain that's, completely separated from a normal human brain. That's the only way I could describe it, where, I would say it's kind of like addicts, Addicts could justify almost anything to get that fix. And that's how I equate the JWs, is that they're addicts that would justify anything that goes against human nature or, common human rights, in the name of, religion, perpetrated by a JW organization that use that to their advantage. I guess there's going to be a part 2 or 3 to this, because, the children in this situation is it's a touchy subject, and I have to play my cards just right, and not come on too strong, but then again, not be too timid and weak about it either. It's a fine balance between dealing with this and waking them up. And like I said, I cannot wake my wife up. She would have to wake up on her own. And I just have to drop little hints here and there and sort of chip away with a spoon on this prison walls, just like the Shawshank Redemption. And it may take many decades before she gets to see the light on the other end of the wall. So with that, I'll say goodnight to all of you, and have a great tomorrow.